The story of civilization. This is the story of Egypt. It begins in the legendary Mountains of the Moon in equatorial Africa, thousands of miles to the south of the thirsty land of Egypt. For Egypt is the Nile, and the Nile is Egypt. Here the mighty Queen of Rivers is born. From many sources, the waters gather and flow northward thousands of miles out of Uganda, through the Sudan, and into the parched land of Egypt. Just as the mighty Nile ebbs and flows with the changing seasons, so has the history of the human race risen and fallen along its banks. Before the dawn of recorded history, much of North Africa was a green and verdant land. The sun smiled down. And then came the change. The great glacier in Europe receded to the north. The sun became an angry god. Blistering hot winds swept across the land, killing the vegetation. No longer did the life-giving rain fall from the heavens. Under the whiplash of the sun, the very earth recoiled. For thousands and thousands of years, the sun beat down and blistered the earth, drying up the watercourses, changing a verdant land into a barren wilderness. People were nomads and hunters who once lived in a great green land, now dying under the impact of the sun and the wind. Man could no longer live in this sterile land. He and his primitive implements were buried under the shifting sands. The ordeal was for the animals as well as mankind, and they too wandered across the desert in their dumb misery. Here and there, a few small pools remained, enough to sustain life, but only for a short time. In all this once lovely land, there now remained only a few scattered oases where life could still go on. The nomad and the hunter wandered across the wasteland, seeking a better place to live. He joined with others of his kind and fought with them and against them for survival. The great valley of the Nile became his homeland. For where its magic waters touched the barren desert lay a green and fertile land. The wanderer became a settled agriculturalist and an artist. He saw beauty about him and worked his impressions into all of the things he made and used. Few records remain of this period, but man laid the foundations of a great civilization. Local governments arose and were eventually unified into two kingdoms, the Upper Egypt of the Nile Valley, the Lower Egypt of the Delta. Narmer, the king of Upper Egypt, conquers the kingdom of the Delta. The falcon brings captive the people of the papyrus swamps. Thus, over 3,000 years before Christ, Narmer becomes the first pharaoh of Egypt, ruler of the two lands. Centuries pass. Here on the edge of the desert, above the Nile at Saqqara, rises the Step Pyramid, the oldest standing stone structure on the face of the earth. And here, the architect, Imhotep, wrought a poem in limestone. A great funerary temple surrounding the pyramid to serve as the eternal home of King Djoser of the Third Dynasty. This earliest use of dressed stone on a large scale is evidence of proud craftsmanship, of a race of artisans who worked with loving care to create a lasting tribute to their gods. Slaves could not have raised this temple, for each stone had to be cut by skilled hands, an exacting task, for no mortar of any kind was used. In these distant times, they knew the beauty of the play of sunlight and shadow on uncluttered surfaces. And here, over 2,000 years before the Golden Age of Greece, Imhotep designed the fluted column. Small wonder that the Greeks worshipped Imhotep as a god. Throughout the temple, details suggest earlier primitive construction. A wooden door translated into stone swings forever open on its immovable stone hinge. This exquisite structure was erected 4,700 years ago, at a time when the peoples of Europe dwelt in primitive darkness. Graceful form of the papyrus stem, stylized in limestone. The ancient stonemasons did their work to perfection. each stone individually shaped to fit without the use of mortar. A wall, a third of a mile in length, with all the beauty which we associate with the best in modern architecture. A false door is the portal of the underworld. The tombs of the nobles depict the life of the times and are not wanting in gaiety. The beliefs of the Old Kingdom envisioned the hereafter as a continuation of the more pleasant aspects of earthly existence. Pharaoh was surrounded by a glittering court of aristocratic nobles and military leaders. The general Rahotep and his lady gaze across the void of time with the infinite wisdom and calm of the ages. A jeweled collar will brighten the journey into the land of the dead. The swamps of paradise reflect the struggle of nature, as on earth. The huge exterior tombs in pyramid form began with the step pyramid at Saqqara and now progress to that of Meidum. The bent pyramid of Dashur is unique in design, a true pyramid for half its height. The upper portion cuts in at a shallower angle. Near Dashur stands the earliest geometrically true pyramid. On the plateau of Giza, we find the full flowering of pyramid tomb construction. And the mightiest of all, the Great Pyramid of Cheops, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Here, great blocks of stone were used, weighing several tons each. Stones which could not be raised by muscle power alone. The engineering principles of ramps, rollers, and levers were employed in this stupendous architectural feat. The upper courses of stone originally rested almost 500 feet above the base. The mighty works of the 4th dynasty are an indication of a very strong centralized government. Daughter of a king, wife of a king, mother of a king. Queen Hetepheres was the great lady of the Old Kingdom. Her tomb furniture made of wood encased with pure gold as the beauty of the gentle curve and the serene straight line. Hetepheres, mother of Cheops, led a long life of imperial splendor. Fine linen was hung from the bed canopy, suspended from these slender hooks. The Dowager Queen often rode about the palace grounds in her royal carrying chair. Letters of gold spell out the legend. Mother of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, follower of Horus, guide of the ruler, favorite lady whose every word is done for her, daughter of his body, Hetepheres. The origin of the Sphinx, carved out of the living rock, was lost in ancient times. The body was swallowed by the sea of sand, and the huge head was worshipped as the god of dawn and thought to hold the answer to the mystery of life itself. It was believed that someday the stone lips would part, and this inscrutable monster give the answers to the problems of mankind. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. On the body of a lion, the proud head of Khephren, the son of Cheops and builder of the second pyramid, keeps eternal vigil over the valley of the Nile. Much of the royal sculpture is formal and stylized. But in these portrait heads, we see the true face of ancient Egypt, curiously like the mingled races of our own time. These portraits of nobles were placed in the tombs to assure a permanent home for the ka, or spirit, in case the mummy was destroyed. During the reign of Cheops and his immediate descendants, sculpture in the round reached its peak and was never again surpassed in Egyptian art. Diorite, one of the hardest materials, here holds King Khephren in regal dignity. Many gods of ancient Egypt manifested themselves in animal form. The hawk god, Horus, was destined to remain a chief deity up to the Christian era. He represented the forces of good against evil. In the 5th dynasty, the governors of the individual provinces began to assume some of Pharaoh's control. Under Pepi I of the 6th dynasty, this process continued. Pepi II began his reign on the lap of his queen mother and ruled for 94 years. Toward the end of his fabulous regime, political disintegration set in. Egyptian fought Egyptian, and the local governors no longer held allegiance to the crown. Egypt became a series of small states struggling against themselves. Thus was brought to a close the great glory of the Old Kingdom, which had lasted nearly 1,000 years. For 2 centuries, the country was disorganized. In the 11th dynasty, the river was again a unifying factor. The lands along the Nile became one again, and commerce flourished. The gods of Upper and Lower Egypt bind together the lotus and papyrus, symbols of the 2 lands. Mentuhotep II regained firm control and ushered in the Middle Kingdom. there was a rebirth of formal art in tomb decoration of great beauty. On her limestone sarcophagus, Princess Kawit has her hair dressed by an attendant. A polished bronze mirror reflects her vanity. Provisions are made for life in the hereafter. While the cow is milked, the calf is denied, and the mother sheds a formal tear. The eyes of the dead stare into the world of the living. The 12th dynasty continued this period of prosperity and conquest. Sesostris I ruled the two lands in 1960 BC. The names of Egyptian rulers are enclosed in this characteristic oval, the royal cartouche of Sesostris I. Royal jewelry reached a high standard of excellence. Magnificent monuments were erected during his reign, such as this shrine dedicated to the god Amun. Amenemhat III carried out great irrigation projects in the Fayum. The fury of the unchecked waters during inundation had to be controlled. A great reservoir and a complicated series of canals were excavated. No longer was the Nile a fickle monster, but the controlled servant of the people who dwelt along its banks. This grand-scale project was carried to fulfillment with this simple type of hoe, and countless tons of earth were moved in tiny baskets. The nobles decorated the portals and facades of their tombs with sunken relief. The colorful birds of Beni Hassan fly through the heavens in the afterworld as in life. In the ensuing millennia, man will spend his years in struggle and strife. Millions of humans will fall before the wrath of their brethren. The forces of nature will alter the face of the earth, but the wild creatures remain unchanged. The birds of Beni Hassan fly in the skies of today. The artist delicately suggests the hippo's swamp habitat. Wooden bedsteads were frequently inlaid with ivory animals. Perhaps the greatest of the monumental works of this period was the slender granite shaft called the obelisk. In the quarries of Aswan, we wonder at the engineering skill entailed in the removal of huge single pieces of granite from the bedrock. Balls of dolerite or other hard stone were used in the channeling out process. Human hands patiently wielded these primitive tools to reduce to dust the parts of the rock which had to be removed. This giant shaft would have been the tallest of all obelisks, but a fault was discovered in the quarrying process, and the project was abandoned. This staggering feat of engineering, begun at the quarry, continued on in the journey 400 miles down the Nile, reached its climax when the shaft was proudly raised before the gateway of a great temple. Here indeed, art, craft, and ingenuity combined symbolically with the spirit of man, as this slender shaft of granite points its slim finger at the heavens. The Middle Kingdom met its end in political disintegration and civil war.